What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you for Better Off Dead Wednesday, May 14th. Coming off a good night last night where I went 5-2 and potentially could have been undefeated, potentially could have been 7-0. I probably should have been 6-0 in baseball, but it was 5-1 in baseball as we did have one game that was postponed. Like I said, the St. Louis Philadelphia game, which we do not get the same pitching matchup today, which I will talk about. So that gets thrown out. The Cleveland Cavs lost, though. I think the Cavs, I'm pretty sure they had like a huge lead. Let me see. I think they blew a giant lead in the game, which is pretty unfortunate. I'm pretty sure they were up 20 in this game. Yeah, they were up 19 in the first half. They were dominating the first half, and then they completely fell apart and lost the game. An epic collapse in another game from Cleveland. So you've basically had both Cleveland and the Celtics having multiple, essentially 20-point collapses at home in these series. Celtics with 3 separate collapses, which I'll talk about in a second. Not that I want to, but Cleveland didn't get there for me. After all that, the Tampa Bay Rays were a winner after they were leading. Then they blew the lead. Boz didn't really do that well for them, but it was good enough that they were winning the game. They blew the lead, and then they wound up winning the game anyway, retaking the lead late and winning. Washington and Atlanta would have hit the full game under. It did go under 8.5, whatever, as they landed on 7. Shockingly, it was unfortunately it was 5. So I lost the first 5 inning bet by a half run, as I had under 4.5 in the first 5 innings. 5 runs got scored. And then somehow Washington's bullpen didn't actually pitch poorly in the game, which is not what I would have expected. So that's very frustrating when you go first 5, taking out the worst bullpen in the majors, and it actually works against you. So that sucked. Texas Rangers hit on the run line, so that won. Kansas City, Houston under, easy win there. Big time pitching duel there. Yankees, Seattle under, also very easy win there, even though it went into extra innings. Still didn't even matter. 2-1 final. Extra innings with the stupid ghost runner on second. They have to get rid of that rule. Can really hurt your unders. And then San Diego on the run line. Both of my run line plays hit, as San Diego did it in the bottom of the 9th inning with a walk-off 2-run home run by Tatis. So I did have to get a little bit lucky on that one. But look, man, I get so unlucky some of the time. You got to take the luck when it comes to you. So that happened. So it was a nice night for me there. Unfortunately, because March was so bad, we're just still close to the break-even point here. And I think I'll have to see if I'm actually up or down in May. I'm not even sure. I think maybe I'm up in May. I'm not even sure. But yesterday was nice. I've had 3 winning days in a row, though the other 2 were really small. Let's get to today, as I'm not sharing my screen yet. We'll start with the NBA. Knicks, Celtics. Celtics on the verge of elimination, which it's so ridiculous, man, because basically with 3 minutes to go in game 4, if the Celtics win that game and Tatum doesn't get hurt, it's a completely different story, as the Celtics in a 3-minute span essentially went from still being the favorite to win the entire conference and being about a minus 300 favorite to win this series alone, to the Knicks being like a minus 400 favorite to win this series, and the Celtics being essentially dead and having their odds tank to the worst in the worst odds in the Eastern Conference besides the Cavs, I guess. But the Cavs are now eliminated, so I guess congratulations to the Pacers. I mean, I'm no fan of the Cavs, so I'm fine with that, even though I lost money on that one. I'm still fine with the overall outcome there from a rooting perspective. Now, Knicks, Celtics, yes, you're definitely getting line value on the Celtics here, okay? I mean, they're down from 5 to 4.5 here. Does look like the Knicks have the cash percentage, 64% of tickets, 72% of the cash. You know the Knicks are going to be public. The Knicks have won 3 games in the series. The public knows Jason Tatum is hurt. Now, they're going to say the Celtics are done. Everybody's saying they're done. They're a dead team. So usually when that's the case, you do want to bet on that team. And that is I would lean to the Celtics still to win and cover this game, because, again, you're getting line value. With Tatum being injured, this line has dropped 5 points, which is just ridiculous. So you're definitely getting line value on the Celtics here, as Tatum alone is not worth 5 points. Celtics have a very deep roster. The problem is Porzingis is not healthy. I mean, he has an illness, but I think he's like playing injured or something, and he hasn't started since game 1, where he only played the first quarter and scored 0. He's played a little bit better in a couple of the other games, but has come off the bench. Jaylen Brown, I think, has a knee injury and he's playing through it. So this is a very, very banged up Celtics team. So I do still have hesitations on playing the Celtics here, even though I think it is the right spot to do it. The Celtics, we know, very, very good off of a loss, even though they did lose one game in this series off of a loss. They're now, I believe, 21-3 straight up off of a loss in the last 24 games, which goes back to, I don't know, the beginning of this year or some point last year, whatever it is. And they are, I believe, 19-5 against the spread now, coming off a loss. So they tend to dominate off of a loss. I think they do even better on the road off of a loss. So again, I have some hesitations here. Still would only lean that way, though, as I think the Knicks might actually kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit. And the Celtics still, they've dominated the series with the Knicks, man. Not just this series statistically, but also, we're not statistically, but this series, just in the fact they've had huge leads. As the Celtics, they're down 1-3 in the series, yet the Celtics have had the biggest lead in every game. They've had a double-digit lead in every game, and I believe they've had at least an 18-point lead in every game, with leads of 20, 20, 31, and 18, I believe. And the Knicks leads in each game have been 6-3, 0, and 11, I believe. So the Celtics have had the largest lead in every single game. They obviously should be up in the series. It's just absolutely a disaster what has happened. Again, fire Joe Mazzulla. I mean, this is a historic outcome here, as no team has blown two 20-point losses or blown two 20-point leads in a series, man. Even I think the Cavs didn't even technically do it because I think they were actually only up 19 yesterday, although I'll have to look into that. But this has been just a complete bizarre outlier year in the Eastern Conference here in this round of the playoffs specifically. It's just insane. The Celtics should have taken care of business. The Knicks don't defend the three well. The Celtics do match up well against the Knicks. So the Celtics are going to shoot a lot of threes in this game as well. And if they are hitting the threes, I think they should win this game. Again, Celtics do have a matchup edge here. Knicks don't defend the three well. The Celtics still can kind of compete with size in the middle there, as Tatum is not one of their big men, of course. Celtics actually did better by going with a small lineup in game 3 with Peyton Pritchard getting a lot of minutes, which he is probably going to in this game as well. So I don't think that's actually that bad for the Celtics. So there are some reasons to actually like the Celtics here in a bounce back spot, backs against the wall, and in an injured player theory spot. As you know, when your star player gets injured, a lot of times the team will step up and play well in his absence. The only question is, are the Celtics going to do that, or are they going to behave like a dead team here? And that's what you have to gauge. So that makes it very difficult. So I have to stay away. And then Warriors T-Wolves, of course, Curry is still not back. As you see, the T-Wolves up from 10.5 to 11. If the Warriors can somehow extend the series, he might be back next game. I don't know that that's going to happen. I mean, obviously, the T-Wolves are a massive favorite here. Would I lay this number with the T-Wolves? No, I would not, although the public seems to still think that this line is way too big, as the Warriors have been a public team this whole series, this whole playoffs, really. 69% of tickets and only 58% of the cash on the Warriors. But this is a pretty low total, man. I mean, 203. Warriors T-Wolves has been a defensive series. Both teams play pretty well defensively. And with Curry out, you could see less scoring as well. So I do think an under does kind of make sense in this game. 52% of tickets on the over, 51% of the cash on the under. And that being the case, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the T-Wolves to cover a huge spread like this, which I believe the T-Wolves have only actually won by a margin this big once in this series, even though they are up 3-1. I think their other two wins have been by less than double digits. So the Warriors have been in those games despite losing them, even though they've lost 3 games in a row now, I believe. So the Warriors could certainly cover this and still lose. I mean, it's a huge spread, and that might happen here if this is a low-scoring defensive game. So we're going to stay away. NHL, I am going to make a play, not in the first game. First game is Florida-Toronto as the series shifts back to Toronto. The home team has won every game in the series so far. Florida went home down 0-2, and now they've tied the series 2-2. Again, Florida was my pick to win the championship, and I still think they're the best team in hockey right now, as the odds makers are still telling you they're good enough that they're a road favorite here against Toronto. And as I keep saying, I do think Florida has more balance here. Toronto's more of an offensive team, but the series shifting back to Toronto, with Toronto coming off not only 2 straight losses, but also coming off getting shut out. A lot of times you do want to play on that team that just got shut out. There's a little bit of an extra advantage there, as they tend to play a little bit harder. So I would lean to Toronto as a home underdog here. Florida down from -134 to -129. 53% of tickets, only 52% of the cash. Slightly into Toronto, which this is going to mean that Florida, if they're going to win the series, they're going to have to win one game on the road, though, at least. In addition to winning that other home game, which I think they should, because they'll be a big favorite there. So, I mean, this is a pivotal game. So that's the thing. Like, these teams are going to have to show up in this game. I don't hate the under either in this scenarios. When you have a 2-2 series like this, a lot of times you see a lot of defensive intensity, and we see it's under 6 way juice. So it's basically 5.5, 72% of tickets, 65% of the cash on the over. So I lean to the under in that game as well. Edmonton and Vegas. Edmonton has a 3-1 lead, but now the series shifts back to Vegas, where Vegas only won one of the 2 games. But again, I think this is a very home-centric series, even though Vegas did lose one of the 2 home games. I think Vegas has been the better team in their home games. I like Vegas to stave off elimination here, as this is going to be a home game for them. You know they're going to show up. It's kind of a weird travel position for Edmonton to be in, even though, yeah, they already did this and played 2 games in Vegas already. But I think Vegas is going to be the team that kind of is able to have the upper hand here at home. Vegas has been a very good home team. Again, I think they have the better defense and goaltending that Edmonton does, even though Edmonton's goaltending has kind of shown up in this series. The cash is coming in on Vegas, and you're getting a little bit of a low price. I'm on them at -122 here. They're up for -125 to -126, 55% of tickets, 86% of the cash. So I think they do have the actual money coming in on them. And again, I agree with it. I think Vegas does get this game tonight, and the series extends further, which is a lot of times what you see in hockey. And I think teams in this position, down 3-1, coming back home off a loss, I think they do tend to do well. And also, speaking of coming off a shutout, Vegas just got shut out 3-0 in Edmonton. And yes, Edmonton did outplay them statistically in that game. It wasn't that significant. And again, when you're coming off a shutout loss, you tend to be even more motivated to bounce back from that, whereas Edmonton might be feeling pretty good about themselves right now, holding on to a 3-1 lead, coming off that big home shutout win. So we're going to play Vegas in that game. Let's go over to Major League Baseball. So we have a lot of baseball games today. So we have, I believe, 2 doubleheaders today. Minnesota, Baltimore is the first one up, as they got rained out yesterday. So now, I don't know what they're doing as far as the starting pitching matchup, because I think Povich was supposed to start one of the games yesterday, or the game yesterday, and now he's not listed as a starter, but it was going to be Woods Richardson against Povich. And I would be surprised if Povich isn't pitching unless he's hurt or something. Because, I mean, Baltimore has such a bad pitching rotation. It's not like they can really take him out of there and replace him with somebody better. I mean, he's been serviceable in some of his games, and he might be improving. So I still think Povich should be playing in this second game here between Minnesota and Baltimore, but I don't even know. So I'll talk about the second game first, just because I'm on it right now. I don't have a play on this. Woods Richardson, as I mentioned yesterday, 1.43 whip is pretty bad. I mean, you can't be putting 1.5 men on base an inning and getting away with it, although his ERA, 4.01, not terrible. It should be higher based on his whip right now. And his numbers against Baltimore are not good. In 22 at-bats over their careers, 318 average, 875 OPS. So I will not be looking to play Minnesota in game 2 in that series, at the very least. I'm not going to play them in game 1 either, even though I think Bailey Ober is the way better pitcher over Dean Creamer. You know me. I like Ober, and I don't like Creamer, which it sounds like we're talking about like dairy products. Ober and Creamer, like it's like Oleo and Creamer. Bailey Ober, yeah, I mean, his whip is bad, 1.4. ERA is actually good, 3.5, but he's got a 12-2 strikeout ratio this month. I mean, he really only has one bad start in his first start of the season against St. Louis, which is kind of something that he does. He has a bad start to open the season a lot of times, and then he gets way better. He's been quite good on the season, though. So, I mean, he hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start besides that one, and in all of his starts except that one against the Mets, who are a good hitting lineup, where he still pitched pretty well in that game, despite allowing the 3 runs. Besides that one, he's allowed exactly 1 earned run in all of his other starts. Ober, pretty good. Against the Orioles also has good numbers, 63 at bats, 20-3 strikeout walk ratio, 222 average, 527 OPS. So some good numbers for Ober. However, Dean Kremer actually has pretty good numbers against Minnesota as well, as their offense isn't that good. I mean, obviously, I'm not a fan of him. 5.24 ERA, 1.28 whip. Not good. He's coming off two nice performances where he went 7 innings in both starts, only allowing 6 total hits combined over the 14 innings, 10-3 strikeout walk ratio, only 2 earned runs allowed. But one of them was against this Minnesota team. So he just faced Minnesota, which is usually a disadvantage to the pitcher when the offense just saw them. They usually kind of get used to them and they're able to hit him again. However, he has actually been good against Minnesota in the past, not just that one start, but beyond that one start, he's been good. And 50 at bats, 200 average, 539 OPS. So I'm not really looking to fade Kremer in the spot, even though I think he is at the disadvantage because the Twins just saw him, although Ober was just seen by Baltimore too. So it's kind of a game where I don't really want to look to the under either, even though both pitchers have a good matchup against the opposing lineups. I don't really like to play unders where both pitchers were literally just seen in their previous start by these opposing lineups. The lineups might be adjusted and do a little bit better. And of course, Kremer, I just don't trust him, so I can't do it. St. Louis, Philadelphia is going to have a makeup game. And unfortunately, we do not get Gray versus Luzardo now. I was on the under first 5 innings in that game, and it got postponed. So no bet on that one. I liked the matchup for both pitchers. But what I will do, because I like the matchup for Luzardo, even though Philly is a big favorite in game 1, we got rested bullpens coming into this now. So Philadelphia having a not very good bullpen is a little bit less concerning. St. Louis's bullpen isn't that much better, really. So we'll go full game on this, especially because we're going to have to go a run line on this because Philadelphia is a big favorite, and they are for a reason here. I'm going to play on Philadelphia with Luzardo starting in game 1. -1 on the run line, -134 is what you have to pay for it. Yeah, you got to pay a price. I mean, Philadelphia's a big favorite here. They're actually way up from -140, -179. Although I think that was because the starting pitching matchup changed. I think that -140 was expecting it to be Gray for St. Louis still, and now they've downgraded to Fedde. 88% of tickets, only 82% of the cash on Philly. So, yeah, I mean, a little bit concerning, I guess, that Philadelphia is public here with less of the cash on them. But with a run line play like this, I mean, I like this. And especially the -1, I mean, if they win the game, you'll at least push. If they only win by 1. Erick Fedde, I mean, he looks good with a 3.86 ERA, but 1.3 whip kind of tells you otherwise. That whip is way too high. And not only that, but he's coming off a great performance against a weak-hitting Nationals team where he had a complete game shutout with no walks, which is actually kind of unlike him, as in the previous game, he had 5 walks and only 4 strikeouts against a good hitting Mets team. Oh, and by the way, Philadelphia hits pretty well. So he's now facing another good offense here. And really, he's faced mostly weak offenses this season. And the 2 best offenses he's faced, Milwaukee and the Mets, both hit him well. Boston was probably the next best offense, and they knocked him around as well. So he has not been good when stepping up in class. So I don't trust Fedde. 29-21 overall strikeout walk ratio is not good either. So even though, yes, he had one really good performance, he threw his most pitches of the season. He's now thrown over 100 pitches in 3 straight starts. I think he's in line for a little bit of a letdown, like fatigue spot here. I don't think that we're seeing him be like a pitcher who's like in form here just because he made one really good start. He's not that good. And against Philadelphia, his numbers are pretty bad. In 88 career at bats, he's allowed 8 home runs to them, 6 of them to Bryce Harper, by the way. So if you want to look for player props, 11 for 22 with 6 home runs and 5 walks against Fedde. So that's something to look for there, even though Harper is now old. But overall, 15-14 strikeout walk ratio is terrible for Fedde against Philadelphia. 330 average and 1,088 OPS. So Fedde's numbers really, really bad against Philadelphia, whereas Luzardo having his best season of his career so far, really. Hasn't lasted that deep into his last 2 games. One was pretty tough against a good Arizona lineup. Still had a 6-1 strikeout walk ratio on that one. Still held the opposing lineups down enough to allow only 2 earned runs in each of those starts. He has not allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start this season, which was against the Giants. Other than that, he's allowed 2 or fewer in every one of his other starts. 51-13 strikeout walk ratio, more than 1 strikeout per inning. fewer than one hit per inning, only 2 home runs allowed, 2.11 ERA, and slightly high 1.21 whip with a little bit of wildness there, but still not that bad. And in 33 at-bats against St. Louis, he's only allowed 1 extra base hit, a double to Contreras, 6-1 strikeout walk ratio, 182 batting average allowed, and 418 OPS. So Luzardo not only having a really good season this year, but has been really good in the past against St. Louis. So we will play Philadelphia on the run line in game 1. Milwaukee, Cleveland next up. Actually, I should talk about St. Louis, Philadelphia just while I'm on it. I guess I'll talk about the other game. Gray against Nola now. So Gray, I liked the starting pitching matchup for him yesterday. A 3.5 ERA, 1.08 whip. And against Philly, 148 at bats. He's held him to 230 average and 632 OPS with a 50 to 15 strikeout walk ratio. So it's a good matchup for Gray, but it is also, I think, a good matchup for Nola. On the other side, his numbers don't look good this year, though. 4.89 ERA, 1.35 whip. And we know based on his career, he is better than this. And he's been okay this month with a 13 to 3 strikeout walk ratio. Didn't do well in his last start against Cleveland, but he had 2 good starts in the prior 2 starts against the Cubs and Arizona. So those are 2 good hitting lineups. So he is somewhat returning to form, I think. And against St. Louis, 126 at bats. He's on to a 190 average and 578 OPS. So he does have some wildness concerns, but I think Nola should continue to get a little bit better again. He's not as bad. Like his career would tell you that he's not as bad as what he's done so far this season. So I don't mind the under in that game, but you don't know what's going to happen with the bullpens because bullpens are probably going to get used to some degree in the first game. So an under in the first 5 innings might make sense again there. I just don't know if I totally trust Nola with the way he's been pitching. So I am staying off of that one, but that is a slight lean for me. Now, Milwaukee and Cleveland, I think Cleveland is in a bad spot here, and I am going to take Milwaukee first 5 innings at plus 116, although you can get a better number on them full game. You can probably get like plus 124 or something on them full game, which I don't hate that either. If you want to play Milwaukee in the full game, I think there are decent reasons to do it. But of course, the reason why I'm not is because the bullpens are terrible, which is why the odds makers have given you a bit of a higher price. Like you're getting a better price on Milwaukee full game. I'm not going to do that, but Cleveland is on the verge of a sweep here, so they might take Milwaukee a little bit lightly. And not only that, but Milwaukee hasn't even scored in the series, which is absolutely crazy. It's a pretty good Milwaukee lineup, and they're being outscored 7-0 in the series so far. So I think Milwaukee are going to be in an embarrassed mood here. I think they're in a nice spot to bounce back here, whereas Cleveland has already won the series, feeling really good about themselves probably, and they got their in-state rivalry series up next with Cincinnati, which is possibly a look-ahead spot. That's actually a fairly big series when you have these like natural rival series going on there. And now we get the starting pitching matchup. Logan Henderson is pitching for Milwaukee. He's a very young guy, 23 years old. And he's only made 1 start in his major league career, and it was against a decent hitting A's team. Well, he went 6 innings and allowed 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts to 1 walk, and only 3 hits. So there's a nice major league debut for you, and was pretty efficient too with 83 pitches thrown. So I don't know if you could take that much away from 1 start, but when that's your major league debut and it's against a decent offense, that's pretty good for Henderson. So I actually like Henderson. 1.5 ERA, 0.67 whip based on that 1 start. And of course, Cleveland has never faced him before, so that's a little bit of an edge. And you have these good young pitchers that actually have pretty good stuff, which we can see he must have pretty good strikeout stuff if he was able to do that. And I think when I handicapped that game, I talked about the scouting on him, and I think his scouting is pretty decent as well. That's what you want to look for. And you have a young pitcher who's completely unknown to the opposing hitters. They tend to have a little bit of an edge, whereas Gavin Williams is not an unknown, and his whip is sky high, 1.73. I mean, this guy is not getting it done. 4.38 ERA should be even higher based on that whip. He's walked 9 guys over 9 innings in his last 2 starts. Yeah, he had a really high strikeout rate in those 17 strikeouts. So he's almost striking out 2 guys an inning, but he's been unbelievably wild in those starts as well, with 9 walks. Like I said, 1 walk per inning. Overall, 45 to 23 strikeout walk ratio. He's also been too hittable, giving up more than 1 hit per inning. It just has not been good for Williams. I don't really see him really turning it around here as his wildness just continues, even though he didn't allow as many runs there. Against Milwaukee, they have seen him only 11 at bats worth. They do have a 273 average off him in 1,021 OPS, which isn't too bad. So I will grab the Brew Crew on the money line, but only in the first 5 innings because I don't want anything to do with the Milwaukee bullpen, even though I do think the situation sets up decently for Milwaukee in the full game as well. So if you did want to do that, I think that's also okay. Cleveland down from minus 145 to minus 137, although it looks like they do have 51% of the cash coming in on them, 66% of tickets on Milwaukee. I don't really understand that. I don't think the public is coming in on Milwaukee to that degree, especially when they have a starter who's completely unknown. But we will see. But that's what I like in that game. And I don't know if there's anything else I had to say about that one, but that's Cleveland did use some of their best relievers yesterday as well, though. So if you do go Milwaukee full game, there is at least that. But Milwaukee used some of their bullpen as well, and their bullpen is just not good. Moving along here, Arizona and the Giants. The Giants bounced back and won yesterday, which I said they might after the return home spot. Usually is not an easy spot. They lost, and usually when that happens, you bounce back and play a better game in the next game, which they did. So that happened with Texas, San Diego, and San Francisco. They all were able to do it. But now we have, I believe this is a rubber match in the series now. Rodriguez, Erod pitching for the Diamondbacks, 6.86 ERA, 1.67 whip, very bad. He's coming off getting really knocked around by the Dodgers and actually the Phillies the game before that, the Mets the game before that. So he's coming off 3 really rough outings against 3 good offenses, but still that's not a great sign. Against the Giants in 29 at bats, he hasn't been that great. 276 average, 840 OPS. Chapman has really hit him hard. That's really been the one issue he's had. 7 for 16 with a home run and 2 walks. So Chapman, player props might make sense there. He's been the one that's really hit Rodriguez hard. Hicks on the other side, don't know if we can trust him. 5.82 ERA, 1.41 whip. Pretty bad numbers, although he is doing well this month with 11 combined innings across 2 starts, only allowing 6 earned runs. Not too bad. Only 2 walks to 13 strikeouts in that span. That's pretty good. So his numbers have improved over those last 2 starts. And actually, his start before that against Texas, not that bad either. But in these 2 starts, these were a home start against Colorado and then a start against Minnesota. So not against impressive offenses. So that would worry me a little bit there, as Arizona is, of course, a much better offense, probably about a top 5 or 6 offense in baseball. But Hicks has done well against them in the past. 37 at bats, a 162 average and 424 OPS. So I think Hicks is the one that's actually trending in the right direction, in better form right now. So I do lean to the Giants again in this one, and they do have the better bullpen than Arizona. So slight lean there, but it looks like the market read is kind of against it. 52% of the tickets on San Francisco and 89% of the cash coming in on Arizona. I don't really agree with that cash disparity on that one. I would lean to the Giants in that one. Andrew, what's up, man? Yes, thank you, sir. Yankees, Seattle, and one on the under last night. I would not play an under in this one, as Will Warren, I think, is not trustworthy. 4.75 ERA, 1.36 whip for the Yankees here. He is coming off a nice start, his best start of the season, which not only was that, but it was actually at the A's Stadium, which is a very hitter-friendly park, and he actually went 7 1/3, very efficient, 87 pitches, only allowed 1 earned run, 7-1 strikeout walk ratio. So Will Warren actually has allowed fewer than 1 hit per inning, 41-16 strikeout walk ratio, more than 1 strikeout per inning. So maybe Warren, I mean, those like kind of peripheral numbers are kind of telling you he's maybe not as bad as his numbers look. He hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in any start. Seems to be trending a little bit in the right direction here. Against Seattle, Seattle's never seen him before, so maybe Warren is, not unplayable in this game. Luis Castillo is, of course, a much more known quantity, and his ERA looks good, 3.95 ERA, but 1.38 whip indicates something else is going on. He's been walking too many guys. 33-18 strikeout walk ratio is not great. That's too many walks. Hasn't allowed many hits, though, which is good. Up against the Yankees, his numbers are actually pretty good as well in his career. 95 at bats, although again, too many walks. 27-15 strikeout walk ratio. 211 average, though. 693 OPS. So Castillo has been pretty good against him, although Goldschmidt has hit him really well. 10 for 43 with, well, not really well. 10 for 43 is not that good, but he does have 3 home runs and 5 walks off of him. But The batting average, not very good there. And Judge 3 for 7 with a home run and 5 walks is actually a bit better. So maybe Judge, if you want to target some player props there, again, hits plus runs plus RBIs over the total, maybe look to Judge, although you might have to pay a little bit for that because it's Aaron Judge. I'm going to stay off the game. I don't know if we can totally trust Castillo in the form that he's in right now. Although I could see another under happening, but although yesterday, both bullpens, I think, had to get used, not only yesterday, but the day before that. So the bullpens are kind of worn out. So I'd be a little bit worried about that as yesterday's game went into extra innings and we were still able to get the under there. And this one, I would be a little bit more hesitant to do so, although the total's down from 8.5 juiced the under to 8, juiced to the over there. Already talked about game 2 in St. Louis and Philadelphia. Boston, Detroit, and of course, Boston. My Red Sox are coming up blowing another game. First game of the series, they got absolutely wrecked as Tanner Houck shouldn't even be in Major League Baseball at this point. Yesterday, the Red Sox had the lead and blew the game late. So another bad game for them. This game, I mean, the under seems to make a lot of sense in this game. Hunter Dobbins pitching for the Red Sox. While Houck is doing terrible, Hunter Dobbins has actually been pretty good to start his career with the Red Sox here. 1.19 whip, 2.78 ERA across 5 starts. Got at least 5 innings in every start. Allowed no more than 4 earned runs in any start. Coming off a 6-inning, 6 strikeout, no walk, 5-hit shutout against Kansas City. Very efficient too with only 81 pitches. That's pretty good. He's pitching well. 19-4 strikeout walk ratio. Granted, Detroit's probably the best lineup that he's going to be facing so far, though. So he's done this against St. Louis, the White Sox, Minnesota, and Kansas City. So not really elite offenses. So maybe he's not quite as good as he looks, but still, he's pitching well. He has a good strikeout to walk ratio. Has been pretty much in command. So that is pretty good. And these young pitchers, like I said, when they're pitching pretty well, if they're facing a lineup that hasn't seen them before, the pitcher usually has the edge. And then, of course, Skubal is pitching for Detroit. And I mean, he's a Cy Young contender, obviously. 2.08 ERA, 0.88 whip. Coming off another great outing with double-digit strikeouts against Texas. 2-hit, 1-run performance there. I mean, he's just dominating. He allowed 4 and 3 earned runs in his first 2 starts. And then since then, basically hasn't allowed anything. And he's been way better at home as well. So Skubal, good numbers. But against the Red Sox, his numbers aren't that great. I mean, they're mediocre in 55 at bats. He does have a 12-0 strikeout walk ratio, which is good, but a 273 average is okay, and 745 OPS is slightly high. So the Red Sox actually do okay at hitting school balls. So I'm going to stay away from this one a little bit. I mean, with a 7.5 total, not too much room for error there. Still would lean to the under with 89% of tickets on the over and only 83% of cash on the overs. These games have been very high scoring so far in the series. Maybe look to an under first 5 innings, although you probably have to pay. You probably are getting like 3.5 number on that one. So that's not something that I really love to do either, but probably the under does still make sense if you're looking at that game. One of the other things I was going to point out, by the way, Erick Fedde has been terrible this year in day games, and this is going to be a day game. In day games this year, he has a 5.96 ERA compared to 1.29 at night. So his day games have been awful. And yes, he's been actually better on the road this year, but it's a smaller sample size. Last year was a bigger sample size, and last year his splits were ridiculous. Or he had a 1.94 home ERA and 4.28 on the road. So last year he was still worse during the day last year, but he was also way worse on the road. So I think fading Fedde is still a fine way to go there. Okay. Continuing on, Tampa, Toronto, Pepio against Bassett here. Tampa got the win for me yesterday. A lot of bullpen usage. Pepio, 1.31 whip. Not really as much Pepio in his Stepio, I guess, based on that whip, even though his ERA looks good at 3.86. 1.31 whip is not good. I mean, he's been decent. I mean, he's had only 1 start where he's allowed more than 3 earned runs, so he is at least limiting the damage. Not the greatest pitcher this year, but he's been okay. Toronto really has not seen much of him because he's mostly spent his time in the National League. In 10 at bats, he's held to a 100 average and 282 OPS. Not a whole lot to see there, but that does mean that Toronto's offense has not seen Pepio really, so that might be a little bit of an edge to Pepio. Bassett for Toronto, having a decent season, 1.23 whip, 3.35 ERA. Coming off a couple of a little bit rougher outings, I guess, but still a 10-1 strikeout walk ratio this month. I mean, he's still pitching pretty decently. Against Tampa, though, hasn't been that great in 44 career at-bats, a 295 average allowed. He's allowed 4 home runs, a 917 OPS, and it's mostly been Lowe that's done the damage, though. So, again, player prop potential with Lowe, 5 for 11 with 3 home runs off of Chris Bassett. So, I'm not playing that game. I don't even know if I would necessarily have a lean. Maybe lean slightly to Tampa again in that game because I do think they have a little bit of the better bullpen still, even though there's a lot of bullpen usage yesterday. I think Pepio actually might be a little bit undervalued there just because he's kind of the unknown quantity there. And Bassett has bad numbers against Tampa. Not really much to see in the market. The number's up a little bit on Toronto from minus 134 to minus 135 to minus 140. So you would get Tampa as an underdog there. Pirates and Mets. I mean, the Mets are obviously the way better team here, but the Mets are on the verge of a sweep, and they play their Subway Series against the Yankees next, which is a huge series. So that could be a look ahead for the Mets after the Mets have already basically dominated the series against Pittsburgh. The Mets could be looking ahead to that Yankee series and maybe lapse in this game. So if you want to play Pittsburgh on the run line there as a huge underdog, I do think that is the way to lean here. I mean, the Mets are just a massive favorite here, and I think probably at that price, you are getting some value on Pittsburgh there. And in this situation where I think the Mets might be a little bit unfocused, Bailey Falter, 4.36 ERA doesn't look very good for Pittsburgh, but a 1.13 whip kind of tells a different story. That's a pretty good whip. 31 to 13 strikeout walk ratio is not that bad. He's allowed fewer than 1 hit per inning, so that's not bad. And he's coming off a nice 6-inning shutout of the Braves. Went 7 innings, allowing 1 run against San Diego the game before that. So his last 2 starts have been good, although a 9 to 4 strikeout walk ratio isn't that good. Again, he's not really a strikeout pitcher. The walk number is slightly high, but against the Mets, yeah, I mean, his numbers are just mediocre against the Mets, which is kind of the problem here. Not great. And 74 at-bats, a 284 average allowed, 752 OPS, 13 to 6 strikeout walk ratio. So for me, I don't think it's quite playable. And Clay Holmes pitching for the Mets, even at the age of 32, he's actually been surprisingly good this year. 2.74 ERA, a little bit high, 1.24 whip. So I do expect him to still be a little bit worse, but he struck out more than 1 per inning, allowed fewer than 1 hit per inning so far. He has walked too many guys, 44 to 16 strikeout walk ratios. The walks are a concern, but he's only allowed 4 earned runs once. And other than that, he's allowed fewer than that in every other start. And in 4 of his last 5 starts, he's allowed 1 or fewer earned run, although granted, he only went 5 innings in a couple of those, but he's definitely been more than serviceable. And against a weak Pittsburgh lineup in 20 at-bats, he's done well for the most part. 200 average allowed, though, with a home run and a couple of walks in there. 704 OPS, slightly high. Given the situation, slight lean against the Mets, although Pittsburgh really does not have a whole lot going for them here. I mean, Falter, his numbers aren't great against the Mets. The Mets have the better bullpen and the better offense. It's a little bit dicey, but the situation, I think, does say that grabbing Pittsburgh is a huge run line price or whatever might be the way to look in this game. 70% of tickets and only 55% of the cash on the Mets. And if you take Pittsburgh on the run line, you just need them to come close and not actually win the game. White Sox, Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati does have kind of a look ahead to Cleveland coming up next, but maybe that won't happen because Cincinnati did just lose to this bad White Sox team yesterday, and that was a return home spot. And as I always say, when you return home and you have a bad game, a lot of times you play a lot better in the next game. So it is kind of a bounce back spot for Cincinnati here. So I probably would not want to play against the Reds here. Davis Martin pitching for the White Sox, 4.0801 ERA looks pretty good, but 1.41 whip is not good. 28 to 12 strikeout walk ratio, nothing impressive there. Not a good strikeout pitcher. More than 1 hit allowed per inning. I mean, he's just kind of getting away with it. And yeah, the Reds haven't seen him before, but he's not a very good pitcher. So I think the Reds should be able to get to him a bit here. And this is at a very hitter-friendly park as well. Nick Lodolo, on the other hand, has been pretty good for the Reds. 3.23 ERA, 1.01 whip. Nice numbers. 38 to 7 strikeout walk ratio. So nice command out of him. Really not a lot of walks at all. Way fewer than 1 hit per inning allowed as well. So good numbers from Lodolo. And he's facing a very weak White Sox lineup here. 13 at-bats that they have against him. They've struck out 5 times, and they have an 0.77 average, 327 OPS. So Lodolo should have the upper hand here. should actually be a nice positive spot for the Reds and a bounce back spot. So I would lean to playing the Reds on the run line here, but I think it's still maybe a little bit dicey. And you know you're going to be playing on a public Reds team if you do that. They're up from minus 208 to minus 225, though. So I think the only way to play it would be like a minus 1.5 run line on the Reds. You know me, I got away with it last night, but I don't necessarily want to do that there. Washington, Atlanta, Mitchell Parker pitching for Washington. 1.3 whip is pretty ugly, although 3.97 ERA is not bad. So he's been kind of escaping in a lot of cases. He's not been in good form over his last 3 starts, though, giving up 6, 5, and 4 earned runs and walking way too many guys. 11 walks, only 6 strikeouts across that span. That's not good. Granted, the Mets are a good hitting team, so he faced them in one of those games. At Great American Ballpark's not an easy draw either, but then didn't do well at home against St. Louis either. He just has a terrible strikeout walk ratio, 26 to 22. That's bad, even though he has allowed fewer than 1 hit per inning, which is good, but his walk rate is awful. So I can't trust Parker, but his numbers against the Braves are actually good in 41 at bats, 7-0 strikeout walk ratio against the Braves, shockingly. 171 average and 390 OPS. So Parker may not be that bad a look in this specific matchup. Elder, on the other hand, also a pitcher I don't like to play on. 4.97 ERA, 1.29 whip. Bad numbers, but his numbers are getting a little bit better as he's had a couple of decent starts over the last 2. Actually, having his team win behind him against the Dodgers, which is pretty surprising. And then a decent start against Pittsburgh. I mean, he's actually kind of been serviceable, not allowing more than 3 earned runs in any of his last 4 starts. Numbers really aren't great, though. I mean, otherwise. But against Washington, he's been pretty decent. 36 at bats worth. Washington, not a good hitting team. 222 average, 528 OPS. So actually could be a kind of a sneaky under look in this game. Maybe even just in the first 5 innings, because, again, you don't really want anything to do with Washington's bullpen, even though I got caught doing that yesterday, and Washington's bullpen actually would have been the saving grace for the under yesterday, as the under full game hit, and my first 5 under did not, very unfortunately, but the under might make sense in that game, although it looks like the line has been driven up a little bit on the over. Miami and Chicago. Ryan Weathers makes his return. Weathers was a guy who we were just making fun of 2 years ago because he was really, really bad 2 years ago, but he actually weathered that storm and had a much better season for Miami last year. So he could be a little bit of an under the radar pitcher here. However, against the Cubs in his career, the Cubs are a good offense. His numbers are not good against the Cubs. Let me see. 21 at bats. He's allowed a 333 average and 820 OPS. So Weathers is not really weathered it that well against Chicago. Jameson Taillon coming off that bad start of his where I got caught there. I liked the under in that game, and Taillon really hurt me, giving up 4 home runs in the game and somehow only allowing 5 earned runs total. But 4 home runs is just a death blow, basically. But against the Marlins, they're 0 for 4 off him lifetime. So Taillon. So I think a sneaky way to look at that game would be to the under in that game. Maybe if you just like the starting pitching match of first 5 only, but you see 79% of tickets coming in on the over, 59% of the couch on the under. So I do lean to the under. I just think that Weathers, with him not being very good against the Cubs, it's kind of a stay away there. Shockingly, Colorado and Texas, I might actually lean to the under in this game, as insane as that sounds, with Senzatella and Corbin. It looks like one of the worst pitching matchups ever. I saw that and I was like, oh, this is going to be an over. Senzatella, terrible numbers. 1.92 whip is abysmal. 5.77 ERA. It should be even worse given that whip, but somehow against Texas, who don't have a very good offense, they're only 9 for 51 off him with a 176 average and 538 OPS. So he's actually done well against them. And Patrick Corbin somehow has actually kind of been serviceable this year with a 3.13 ERA. Although his 1.39 whip tells you he's not going to keep it up, as he has more walks and strikeouts this month, despite only allowing 3 earned runs over the course of 2 starts. I don't think he can continue this. He's not a good pitcher. Strikeout walk ratio 20 to 12 is awful. So he's putting way too many men on base to keep this up, but Colorado's offense is not good, and in 76 at-bats against Corbin, because they've seen him because he was on Arizona for a while, I believe, 222 average, 564 OPS. So, wait, was he on Arizona? Yeah, that's what I thought, early in his career, yes. So I don't know how many of those stats even go back that far, but 222 average, 564 OPS. So both starting pitchers, despite being really bad, actually have good matchup numbers, and the cash is actually coming in on the under in this one. 58% of the cash, 73% of tickets on the over. 50% 58% of the cash on the under. And it's flipped from 9 juice to the over to 9 juice to the under. So I agree with the under in that one. KC against Houston. Lorenzen pitching for KC. Not a great pitcher. 3.57 ERA, 1.26 whip. Whip is still too high. And against the Astros, bad numbers in 36 at bats. He's allowed 4 home runs spread all the way out across their lineup. 306 average and 1,026 OPS. Lorenzen has struggled. The issue is Colton Gordon is pitching for Houston. I don't know what we're going to get out of this guy. This is his major league debut. He's had some decent numbers in AAA, but he's not an overpowering pitcher. He has like a low 90s fastball and some off-speed stuff, and really has to kind of focus on his command, which he doesn't walk a lot of guys, I don't think, in the minors, but still it remains to be seen what he's actually going to be able to do at the major. So I'm going to stay away. And then Hendricks against Vasquez in Anaheim, San Diego. Looks like you'd want to play an over, although in San Diego, the overs aren't quite as tempting. It's a good pitcher's park. But Hendricks, even though I don't like him and I like to play against him when I can, 5.3 ERA, 1.26 whip, actually not as bad as his ERA looks. He's not a good pitcher, though. Against San Diego, however, in 99 at-bats, he has been good. 242 average, 575 OPS. So I got to stay away. And then Randy Vasquez for San Diego, 1.59 whip is pitiful. 3.76 ERA looks like he's actually a decent pitcher, but no, he's completely getting away with it. His strikeout walk ratio is probably the worst in baseball. 25 walks to only 18 strikeouts and 38 and a third. That is like, you should be demoted to AAA, man. I mean, that is insane. More walks and strikeouts and almost 1 walk per inning, getting close to that. I mean, that's not quite, but that's still insane. However, Anaheim hasn't hit him well. 12 at bats, 167 average, 397 OPS. And of course, we know Anaheim's lineup is worse. So I don't know what I would want to do with that game. The total has still gone up from 8 juice to the over to 8.5 juice to the over. And then finishing it off, I do have a final play here on the under in A's Dodgers with Gunnar Hoglund pitching for the A's. Young guy, 2.38 ERA, 1.06 whip. He's made 2 starts in the majors so far, and he's got a 10-1 strikeout walk ratio. Granted, yes, he almost threw 100 pitches in his last game, so he might be tired, but that was actually at home in that dreadful A's, really hitter-friendly park, and he still pitched fairly well in that start. So I think this just shows that they're unleashing Hoglund, man. I think he's fine. Yes, he has to step up in class to face this really good Dodgers offense. When you have a young gun like this, and Gunner, good name if he throws that hard. I don't know if he does. I think he might. When you have a young pitcher like that, as I always say, against a lineup that hasn't seen him before, the pitcher tends to do well. And Yamamoto, I mean, I think he's going to bounce back from his worst outing of the season, where he allowed 5 earned runs at Chase Field on the road against a good Arizona offense and a good pitcher's park. I mean, that was a tough draw for him. 1.8 ERA, 0.98 whip, and A's haven't even faced him before, except Urshela's 0 for 2 off him lifetime, and that's it. So I expect Yamamoto to bounce back there. We're going under in the full game there, 8.5. I think the bullpen scenario is okay on that one. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter and patreon.com/Tower Gang. Go see us at Bro Grove and go watch Tower Gang tonight. Peace out.